Here we go. Good morning, KW Milwaukee. Hopefully, everybody had an absolutely incredible 4th of July. The weather hit. It was a beautiful day. Hopefully, y'all stayed safe, made good decisions. You didn't get in trouble at Bummerfest. And I hope you had took a good moment to take some time off. But jumping right into it, a couple things for the group today. One, continued compliance updates for you as it relates to some of the new forms that are coming down the pike now that we're into July. We're working on the background on some things in terms of nothing we can release yet today, but I'll just share with you because I've had some questions around looking at some resources and how we advertise co-broke commissions, knowing that it will be unavailable in the MLS. So we're working through what solutions might be available within the marketplace to help create solutions to that scenario of how we attract a wide array of buyers and buyers agents. And also I'll end with a market update through the first 6 months of the year. And I looked based on the trends of what we saw in May and what I was seeing some slight softness in. I looked at May versus June, and I looked at June versus this year versus last year to kind of create a little bit of a synopsis as to where we are and where I think we're headed. And I'll finish and wrap up with that. And the reason why I think it's incredibly important that you stay through the end is there's a really important lesson in where we are right now in the middle of at the end of June, early July, and how you plan your financials very smartly for the back half of the year. Make sense? So, jumping into mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. One of the things I wanted to highlight is around success results through people within our belief system, and how, quite frankly, there's a phrase we use internally amongst the leadership team that we are our people and our people are us, right? And how we portray that and how our results are portrayed is effectively how we lead through our agents and how we lead through our associates and how we help support and remove obstacles for you in order for you to achieve the success that you desire. And so one of the things I wanted to share through the first 6 months of the year is something that we haven't shared quite too often in 2024, but it's the language of real estate report. And it's the productivity report of how our group and how our associates and how our people as a collective community are doing versus the peer group. And I think it's incredibly important to pay attention to. First, when you look at the LOR report, and the LOR report is a bunch of metrics that I look at in terms of, are we intentionally and purposely outpacing the market? And I want to repeat that. Are we intentionally and purposefully outpacing the market? Because how we intentionally and purposefully outpace the market also shows, and it's the impact of the results we make of what shows up on our training and education calendar, what shows up in terms of how we build our community and how we build Havra and how we build certain things within what it is that we do at KW to help you create intentional and purposeful actions that deliver results that outpace the market. And through 2020 and through June, so through the first half of the year, when you look at closed units, closed sales volume, listings sold volume, listings taken units, listings taken volumes, contracts written, and contracts written volume, you can see in the middle column, it's Metro MLS's trends through June, and you can see what the collective KW Milwaukee group is doing through the first 6 months of the year. And I would call that intentional and purposeful results. And how it shows up and where that lives in how we help you create an environment that allows you to take an unfair market share within where it is that you desire to farm and where it is that you desire to do your job and where it is that you desire to make an impact within your communities. So far through the first 6 months of the year, two things I just wanted to point out. We widened the gap from number two by over 15%. We finished last year basically at even with number one and number two, and so far this year you've making you through your productivity and through the community of productivity that you're part of, you've taken intentional and purposeful results in order to widen that gap by 15% through the first 6 months of the year, and I think that's freaking awesome. Something else that I get a lot of asks too is, what does a culture of productivity mean and how does it show up? So I've shared this with you about 6 months ago, but I just wanted to reiterate it again. KW Associates are the most productive in Southeastern Wisconsin. Again, that's intention and purpose on your part and what it is that we do to help deliver for you. On average, our associates close 11 units per year, and that's stayed consistent in 2024. And the average associate closed 4.2 million in production. That's 102% more closed dollar volume per agent than the market average and 69% more closed units per agent than the market average. That's intentional and purposeful results. And for that, I say that's congrats to you because you are a direct reflection. We are a direct reflection of your level of productivity. The second thing that I get asked for the most, and it's where most people I think are effectively trying to go, and it's how do I continue to raise my profile? How do I continue to raise my price point? How do I continue to work in a market that I desire to do and crack through what it is next within my career? And that's within the luxury space. In the luxury space, for perspective, through the first 6 months of the year, KW Associates sold 54% more luxury homes than the number 2 brand within the market, 54% more, and they sold them 41% faster. Time is money, my friends, and you are a part of an incredibly productive group, and it's intentional and purposeful in all things that we do. How that shows up for you is in the month of June, we paid out 5.5 million in gross commission incomes earned, and year to date, it's at 26.2 million gross commission incomes earned. It's up 8% through 2024. So for that, I say congrats on your level of productivity and what you're up to. Also, I share with you these important numbers because we owe a debt of gratitude to Emily, Jen, and Michelle as they navigated a pretty difficult accounting system change in the month of June. And I appreciated the group's patience with them as they navigated some of those changes and learning new systems for them and how they operate, and appreciated your guys' patience while we worked through a little bit of a slight delay mid-month so that we could pay out 5.5 million in commissions on time and get back to processing within timeframes that you expect. Also incredibly excited to share breaking news is in the month of June, we'll pay out $82,000 in profit share. Year to date, that's $370,000 that'll be paid out in Southeastern Wisconsin. And when people ask about profit share, I always remind them that profit share is cultural. And the reason why I remind people that profit share is cultural is people have a vested interest in everyone's success. So when I get questions around like, why does so-and-so share so much, or how come they're so giving of their time, energy, and efforts? Everyone benefits from the gift of profit share. And if they can help the person to the right of them or the person to the left of them be more productive tomorrow than they were today, they benefit from that. And that's the purpose of profit share, is to uplift each other and create the rising tides lifts all ships mentality. Also, this is a pretty cool little fact, and sometimes I think we take our little community in Milwaukee for granted because we're the small little city in the middle, right on the shores of Lake Michigan. But this morning, someone sent me a report of the top 25 profit share market centers across North America within all of KW. And through June, the Milwaukee group ranks 18th in the entire North American KW system in terms of total profit share earned. And that is not lost considering there's about 800 market centers across North America. So it's an incredible opportunity. And I just wanted to say congrats to those that are earning the profit share, and congrats to those that are contributing to an incredibly productive community of associates and leaning into each other of how you help each other, just like Simon, I shared with you, and what Simon Sinek shared with us a few weeks ago. With that, I'm going to lean into a little bit, a quick update, and Mandy's going to share with you a bit more about training and education and what we have coming up in the next few weeks. And the reason why I led with the WAR report is because it's intentional and purposeful. It's not by accident as to how you guys show up in the level of productivity you have. And so what do we have coming down the pike for you, Cotty? Why don't we let them know?
Ooh, what a buildup. I love it. Yeah. First of all, happy birthday, Laura Brewster. All right. We have our July training calendar that's out. I'm sure you guys didn't look at it over the 4th of July, so please take a look at it. You're going to see a ton all circled around Ignite that is starting this week on the 10th. So if you're not registered for Ignite, please scan it. A lot of you are like, well, I'm only going to go to 1 or 2. That's fine. Register for it. It's a great way to get all of the materials and resources for the classes you don't go to. So you can kind of fill your minds and inboxes with some exciting things to be prepping and learning from. So we're all starting out with Sherry and Dan Wild. This July 10th, all of the sessions are going to be held in New Berlin at the Southwest Market Center, 9 to noon. We have a fun event tomorrow, Sip and Shop at Stonehouse, which is a beautiful little store here. If you guys have not checked it out, it's awesome. Feel free to invite your clients or co-brokes. We just talked a little bit about profit share, great way to kind of show off our culture and everything like that. And they've offered everyone coming to that event during that time 20% off anything in the store. So feel free to join Lindsay, Bella, and I for just a little fun sip and shop tomorrow at Stonehouse in Shorewood, 12 to 2. All those numbers Charlie shared just reminded me that you guys are not average. It's not average camp, it's mega camp, you guys. Mega camp is coming up fast, August 12th through the 15th. I did look, regular pricing is ending July 31st and their special hotel pricing is ending on July 17th. So if you are thinking of going, I would register for it. Great way to meet top agents from all across the country to network, learn best practices, leave with playbooks and implementable things that you guys can do and add into your business. They're talking a lot about this year and how they're creating panelists of people who are talking about new best practices in terms of all of the things that are changing in the industry. So it's going to be a really interesting group and interesting dialogues and conversations based on all the change and things that we're seeing. So they've been really intentional about who they're putting on stage and who they're interviewing with some of these changes we've seen in the market. I was watching the news today and saw a Delta airplane lost wheels. Yeah. So I looked up some flights this morning. There are direct flights from Midway and O'Hare, you guys, for only $319 direct nonstop. If you want to just do one flight, and then there's no direct flights out of Milwaukee. It's super easy though, you guys, and they're under $350. So these were all just pulled this morning. Was actually a lot cheaper than I thought it would be. I told he's like, that's cheapest than I've ever seen to Austin. So these were just pulled this morning. If you are thinking of going and need a hotel, let your team leaders know. We can help you guys with hotels and things like that. So if you're planning on looking into mega camp, I would look into booking your flights soon. And that's what we've got for training and education.
Sweet. All right. I can't remember if it was Sheriff Reed or Lieutenant Kennard. So it's a surprise guest speaker. Steph or Joan, who do we got next?
It's Lieutenant.
All right, Steph, here we go, baby.
Hi. All right. So yes, Joan, Charlie, and I are just, trickling out this information as we get it from the WRA. We don't want to flood everybody at once, right? So last week we talked about the new showing form that's going to be coming out. The listing contracts, buyer agency, and offer to purchases have all been updated. Optional use date of July 1st, required use date of August 15th. I did check last night. They're not in our zip forms yet, but they will be shortly. And the WRA did say that might take a minute. So, but what we are looking at now, so in our listing contracts, there is a section, it was slightly modified. There's a section on the first page of the marketing incentives, and now the word concessions has been now added, so that our sellers may offer concessions that we can advertise. So the concessions are in addition to and separate from the compensation to others section. And the key point on this is that we cannot make it a requirement if a seller is offering a concession that it must be used towards a buyer agent's firm. It may be used towards a buyer's firm commission, but it can be applied elsewhere. So we do have that option now for the seller to just offer it upfront. And this, again, could be in addition to or coupled with a compensation as typical. And then in the compensation to others section, it includes language that the firm has disclosed and the seller approves of offers of compensation. So just a simple extra line there. And then, of course, language was added to state that the commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. That was the change that was made back in January. So we've already seen that change. All right, next up, and then this is just what it looks like, lines 57 through 62, and then lines 21 through 26 is that concessions language that has been added. Okay, the buyer agency agreement. So now includes a note stating that the firm may not represent that the firm's services are free. I think this is in response to a lot of buyers agents, during their buyer consultation meetings, just, kind of explaining like, oh no, you don't pay me, the seller does, right? And which isn't technically the case. A buyer is agreeing to pay for a commission, but within the terms of a buyer agency agreement, it does state that we can collect commission from a listing firm or the seller, right? And that's just how we have practiced. But it's never been a free service that we are offering, right? So again, just a line there, dotting I's, crossing T's. And then a line stating that our rate of compensation may not be open-ended, so it cannot state, for example, 2.4% or whatever the seller is offering. It's got to be a strict percentage or a dollar amount. And then the firm cannot receive compensation for brokerage services from any source that exceeds the amount or rate agreed to in the agreement. So if it is the case where, we've got 2.4% written down into the contract and the home that they are making an offer on, the firm is compensating at 3%, we can amend the buyer agency agreement to reflect that for that property. So you'll come to Joan and I if you guys have a question on
I
that.
want to make
Yes,
sure
Charlie.
that the group heard that buyer agencies cannot be open-ended, but they can be amended.
Right. So
That's an important distinction to allow you to help set your rate.
yeah. All right. Yes.
But we amend buyer agency prior to acceptance or after offer acceptance. If the offer is not accepted, then
Steph, you got to repeat the question.
The question is if we learn that the offer of compensation is greater prior to an accepted offer, should we amend that buyer agency prior to the offer being accepted? I'm not sure that would be necessary. I think it would be fine to do it after the fact, 100%. Yeah. But we can get clarity on that. I just don't.
buyer would agree, the seller's paying.
Right. So,
Steph,
okay. Yes, sir.
I know that you mentioned that they're not available in zip forms yet, but are they accessible within the WRA? These forms accessible elsewhere?
Yes, it is in our PDF forms library, which I believe I only have access to.
We will send them out to the group.
Yes, and yes, we'll have them available. I've got the PDFs.
Okay.
Okay, and then our offers to purchases now includes the language around the seller payment of compensation to the buyer's firm. So some of us have already been practicing this, just writing it into the additional provisions, but now here it is pre-printed, excuse me, and we can just check mark the box on 543. This is on page 10 of the offer. And it simply again states, we've seen this language before, seller agrees to pay to buyer's firm the amount of, and you'll put in the dollar amount, percentage of the purchase price, etc., towards the buyer's brokerage fees at closing. So it's going to be, the same, one of two ways that we will reflect this, if a seller is paying the firm, either through the offer or with our compensation agreements, which we'll be going over that as we get closer to the 15th as well. All right. And then I just, Joan and I and Charlie and I wanted to just highlight this for you guys. Everything that we are getting, you have access to. So the WRA has a great page, /antitrust. where there are resources that they are updating in real time. The legal update that they did last week is there via YouTube, and I'm going to link you guys to that in a minute. And then Charlie, if you want to go to the next slide. This great FAQ was released last week as well. And again, as Joan reminded me, you know, the NAR have been putting out FAQs, obviously. The WRA has as well. And I just think it's a good spot for you guys to reference yourselves as well, you know? So we're communicating the information, but we want you to have line of sight to it as well. And then the latest legal update, where most of this information has been released, is available to watch, and you can watch it for CE credit. So there is the link to it, QR code. And I also
Hey,
wanted
Steph, question for you.
Yes.
It's a biannual year, right?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
And so what does a biannual year mean?
That we have to complete our continuing education by the end of, well, no, mid-December, December 14th.
There you go. Just a subtle reminder to not be the person who calls on December 24th. Hey, my MLS is shut off. What is going on?
Right.
Just a reminder to the group.
And we'll be re-reminding. Oh, and then I just also wanted to highlight that if you want to go back one, Charlie, this Realtor Can campaign. I don't know if you guys have seen the billboards, but the WRA did release a consumer campaign, you know, just pro realtor, you know, kind of highlighting all of the things that we do as buyers agents. And this, you'll be able to see this commercial that's been on air if you watch that legal update. So, all right, next up. Okay, so then the Agent Hub, I just wanted to highlight this again. Kimmy and I think Bella and Willis helped, and Caitlin all helped put this together. So through our KWMKE site in the Agent Hub, under the Office Resources, we do have this great Google folder with all of the, you know, contract trainings we've done, the panels that we've hosted so far, that great panel that Jay and Joan did together, are all under this Articulating Your Value folder. So just want to make sure you guys have access to that as well, and just remind you of its existence. So that's all I got.
Steph, I appreciate you helping us pull this together. I do want to remind the group, because I have heard this, but I feel as if the group is starting to settle in particularly internal. But remember, our forms are controlled by the REB, the Real Estate Examining Board, which is a state governing body, okay? We're monitoring some of the forms that some of our other firms are doing. And quite frankly, I'm also somewhat a bit perplexed why they're doing additional above and beyond work, because it's like layering on top work on top of language on top of, and when you work in an environment, which we're very thankful of, that the WRA and the REB, that we work in an environment that helps level set the playing field for all involved so that we're negotiating similar contracts helps. So the reason why I share this with you is on terms of my messaging that we've been around, we're kind of all in this together in terms of locking our arms as an industry. And the more that we can help our peers do that, and just likewise with me of helping our peers and other brokerages from a leadership perspective, like we're all working towards a common good and a common goal of how do we operate in this environment. And I just want to make sure that we remind the group that one, we work in an environment where the REB controls the contracts, and we're working within the contracts, and we're helping you navigate how you work within the contracts. And two, wrap your arms around your peers, because it's shocking to me every single day when people wake up and they're like, huh? Something's going on, something's changing. So just be a part of the solution to change and not part of the problem to change when a transaction may get a little sticky as change is happening or occurring over the next several weeks. Cool? All right, Linz, we got a few things as it relates to tech and marketing updates. What do these guys need to be paying attention to?
All right, good morning, everybody. So yes, we do have some exciting updates in Command in regard to smart plans and email designs. And first up, because we're always talking about how to build your 36 touch, how to reach out to your database consistently throughout the year. And we want to provide you more content. And that's our goal. And that's what you'll see time and time again. Us releasing content, whether it's the 12 Direct campaign, or we now have 2 new smart plans in the library. When you search KW Milwaukee, you're going to find the Ultimate Buyer Smart Plan and the Ultimate Seller Smart Plan. And so the goal with these is to reach out to those potential buyers, potential sellers that are in your database. And the great thing about this is that it's a 6-month long smart plan. So both of these are a 6-month long smart plan. It's 1 email a month. And so the moment you add contacts to either of these smart plans, they're going to get an automated email once a month for 6 months. And the goal with this is to just provide them with more information on whether they're looking to buy or if they're looking to sell. And so some of the topics for the Buyer Smart Plan is why hire a buyer's agent? We've taken the content that is from our buyer's presentation and we put it into an email form. 8 steps to buying a home, information about financing and mortgages, tips for first-time home buyers, and the ultimate guide to moving. And then we've got topics for sellers, how to prepare to sell, enhancing your home with professional photography, why that's important, where are buyers looking, and then also maximizing your curb appeal. And so, like I mentioned, if you search in the Smart Plan library in Command, KW Milwaukee, you're going to find all of our 12 Direct campaigns, and you're going to find these 2 as well. If you scroll all the way down, all of the newer Smart Plans are at the bottom. So again, work on building up that 36 touch. You've got 6 months of content with both of these smart plans right here at your fingertips, ready to go. All right, kind of speaking around the same topic with smart plans, KW actually just released a new email design editor. So something that I'm super excited for, they basically just made this so much easier to utilize and create a beautiful looking email design within Command. So you can choose from a variety of layout and content blocks. You can upload images, add text boxes. With the content blocks and the layouts, you can actually create segmented space like different building blocks. And if you wanted to layer, 3 images in a row or different things like that, you've got those building blocks to add with content. You can add dividers, listing blocks if you want to highlight a featured listing, a market snap, information about a particular neighborhood, event blocks, buttons, and then other things as well. So some of the new smart plans, those emails were designed with this new email editor. So again, a lot easier to use in my opinion. So really exciting stuff. I'm excited that they released that recently. Another kind of small upgrade to Command, but also on the smart plan topic, is you can now filter by smart plans within your contacts. So it may sound really kind of boring and like, okay, why would I need this? But I think this is super beneficial. So when you go into filters, you can actually search for contacts that are either not on any smart plan or are on a smart plan, or if they're on a particular smart plan from your library. So if you want to just go through your database and see, okay, who am I not reaching out to? Who am I not in contact with these smart plans? You can easily click filter, and then you'll see in the screenshot here, you can click on that no smart plans option, and you're going to see that list of contacts who you are not communicating with via a smart plan in Command. All right. Switching gears a little bit, we've got some exciting topics coming up in the month of July for our social branding bootcamp. So this week we've got Ava, who is our summer intern. If you've seen her in Tosa, in the North Shore, I'm sure you guys have gotten to know Ava a little bit, but she's going to be talking all about Pinterest and how you can utilize it for your business. Then on the 18th, we are discussing TikTok. And then we've got a very special guest, Mr. Jonathan Newby, on July 25th. So those are always at the Innovation Office on Thursdays at 11. We also have them recorded via Zoom as well. And then I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Key Please, the goal of this app is to connect busy agents with available agents, whether it's for showings, open houses, running a key or a lockbox to a listing, inspections, letting in a contractor. It's awesome for new agents who are looking to gain experience within the field. Highly, highly recommend that everybody download this app and start utilizing it. It's strictly within our KW Milwaukee network. And you can set the price within the app. All of that takes place securely through the app in terms of payment. That QR code on the screen, that's going to take you directly to more information on the Key Please app on our website with information on how to download it. And if anyone has any trouble with downloading it, just reach out to me and I'll get you connected. But we've had Key Please within our environment since July of 2021. And so far we've had 341 registered agents. So 341 agents are currently using the Key Please app. So that's a really big chunk of our network here. And in total, we've had 464 total opportunities submitted since July of 2021. So again, a lot of opportunities to make some extra money on the side and gain some experience. The average fee for that's paid by hiring agents is $42 per showing or holding an open house or letting in a contractor. And you can see that, you know, we're covering a bunch of different areas throughout the greater Milwaukee area as well. And a really interesting stat is agents at KW Milwaukee made an additional income of $8,170 by just assisting fellow agents in the last year and a half. So there's a lot of value to be had by utilizing this app. And it's just about creating just leverage for you guys and helping you guys gain some experience as well. So again, QR code, that'll get you some more information on where to download. Thank you.
Sweet. Thanks, Linz. Guys, I want to remind you of two facts. And Lindsay touched on solutions to many people's problems. One, smart plans. Okay. Think about it like this. There's a data point that GMAR shared recently. The average person in southeastern Wisconsin knows 12 real estate agents. 12. Now, 92% of the time, they only interview 2. So if you are 3 through 12, you are irrelevant. Okay? The way you become number 1 or number 2 is the intensity and frequency in which you touch your database. And I'll give you a little bit of if you've read the MREA, they did a little bit of a market research study that they made up a fake agent and they used different frequencies and intensities of how often they touched a farm. And if you read the study, it basically went like this. A fake agent touched a farm once a week for 8 weeks. And then they did a study and said, who is the top agent in the market? And the consumers named a fake agent. Then a year later, they came back, made another fake agent, and they touched the same farm once a month for 8 months. And they did the same consumer research. And guess what? The consumer couldn't name the agent who touched the farm once a month for 8 months. But they identified the fake agent who touched the farm once a week for 8 weeks. The purpose behind it is in Milwaukee, when you're working in a farm where everyone knows 12 agents, how you become number 1 or number 2 is dependent upon the intensity and frequency in which you touch your databases or your farms. That's why I use this phrase, one call, that's all, so often. Or now there's a new player in the market, Nicolay, which by the way, is from Minneapolis. He's not even from Milwaukee. He's using the same playbooks. Okay. It's a good lesson in marketing in terms of how you create intensity and frequency. Second, and this is just to help plug what Lindsay was mentioning, Key Please is a solution to many people's problems. And the problems are you have families, you have sporting events to attend, you have concerts to go to, you have things in your life, and going to Hubertus for a showing on a Thursday night at 7 p.m. may not fit within your personal work-life balance. And there are those that are willing to raise their hand, and it's a solution to many people's problems. So I share that with you as a way to help you understand some of the resources that are available to your fingertips to help you, A, become number one or number two. Who does number two work for? If you know, you know. And two is creating leverage, because leverage is the new hustle. Make sense? Sweet. All right. I'm going to wrap it up with market insights and what we're seeing. Okay. And I'm going to share these with you in a way that I want you to pay attention to the difference between May of 24 versus June of 24. So what is the market doing from May to June, and then June of this year versus June of last year? Okay. It's a slightly different look, and there's a reason why I'm sharing this with you. Here's a little bit of something you should be paying attention to. Historically, on a seasonal basis, from May to June, there's a 10% bump in the industry in terms of total activity. Okay. Historically, on a seasonal basis, from May to June, there's a 10% bump. Let's look at what happened from May to June this year. Foreshadow. Okay. So as a reminder, it's a humbling market, and these reminders are probably more appropriate than ever before. Great markets don't last, great agents do, and you aren't in it to have a great year, you're in it to build a great career. Stay focused on the infinite game and the evergreen mindset. So looking back, I share this with you for a 12-month historical perspective to help you understand where we were and how far we've come as an industry as it relates to the trends. You can see June through September, October of last year, we saw some pretty dark down 20%, down 30%. And mind you, this was over a year that we had been seeing those sorts of trends. And then last fall, we start to see a trend change. And then the first quarter, we start to see some daylight. And then last month, remind you, I started to say, hey, look, I'm starting to seeing some softness in some of our future metrics, right? Listings taken units and contracts written units, and to where that's showing up. And we have to be paying attention to what's happening in June. Now, moving ahead is to just looking at 24 versus 23. June of this year, listings taken units were down 14% and contracts written units were down 7%. Okay. Closed units were down 12%. Now, at the end of May, the industry was up 10%. You can see how that shifted within a matter of 30 days, what happened to the market in terms of closed units on a year-to-date basis and what's happened to listings taken units and contracts written units. Let's dig into the data a little bit more. So I wanted to remind you with the group too, as we go into this, despite some shifting trends within the market, there was something that I told you to pay attention to as we get into 2024. And my outlook from a prediction standpoint was, if the market is flat, we should all be happy. If the market is up single digits, we should be ecstatic. Okay. So my point in sharing that with you is, despite the fact that the market was roaring, what perceived to be roaring through May, and now we've had a little bit of a reset through June, is let's keep the evergreen, the infinite mindset as it relates to our perspective of what I was expecting the market to be. And if the market was flat versus last year, we should be happy. And if the market was up single digits, we should be ecstatic. Okay. So new inventory units. Okay. June of 2024, there was 2,324 new units that came to the market. Versus May of this year, that was down 15%, and versus June of last year, it was down 14%. Okay. Now, the reason why I share that with you is just look here. May to June, there's always a pop. May to June, we just saw the inverse of that. That's why I'm looking at May versus June, May versus June. Now, total inventory is basically flat May versus this year, May of this year versus June of this year, and it's up 2%, just 142 units versus June of last year. Okay. Expired inventory. I've been talking about this for months, and I don't think enough people are paying attention to it. We're seeing significant increases in expired listings. There were 14% more expired listings in June this year versus May of this year. Okay, let's look at the seasonal trends. Seasonally, we see basically last year, May to June was basically flat. May to June this year was a 14% increase. June this year versus June last year was a 29% increase. Okay, there's an opportunity for those of you that desire to be number two in the market, right? There's an opportunity for you to take over expired listings because of listing agents who have overpromised and under-delivering. And where I believe that's happening is in pricing. We'll get there in a second. Sales absorption rates. In the month of June, 34.6% of the inventory went under contract in the given month. This was flat versus May, which is actually really positive. Because if you remember last month, I said to you, hey, I'm seeing some slight softness. We saw a decrease from April to May, and now May to June is flat, is good. It means that the trend line didn't continue getting softer. Okay, so we saw some slight softness in demand for the first time in May of 24. However, that demand metric remained consistent in June. That's good. Okay, and I'll wrap all of this up into a grocery store script for you here in a second. Average days on market. In June, it was 27 days on market. Okay, in May, it was 30 days on market. So the market moved on average. Homes were going under contract 3 days sooner. This is why I'm saying it's a bit of a mixed bag, because we saw some softness in demand or demand leveling off in June, and yet the velocity has not changed within the market that it's operating at. And the market is basically operating at the similar paces to what we saw in June of 22 and June of 23. Okay. Units going, and the reason why I share this with you real quick, this is important because the moment we see days on market spike versus prior months or prior years is the moment that you really know demand is softening. So while from a sales absorption standpoint, we're seeing a flattening of the curve because we haven't seen this spike yet in days on market, tells you that the demand is still there. It hasn't gone away. I have a theory to that I will share with you in a second. Units that are going under contract, June to May was basically flat. Remind you, when I started this, I say we typically see a 10% bump. Okay. The reason why I say that that's not a bad thing is when new unit inventory was down 14% in June versus May, for units going under contract to be flat, again, tells you that the demand curve may not be increasing, but it's definitely flattening. It's not getting softer, and that's good. Okay. And we're paying attention to it. Impact on pricing. You absolutely, as a listing agent, need to hear me on this. Okay. Buyers are finally saying they have had enough, which is why you're seeing such an increase in expired listings, because there's outsized expectations from sellers. In the month of June, the average in southeastern Wisconsin was 395,000. That was up only 2% versus May, yet up 6% from June of last year. The median at 340,000 was up 4% from May of this year and up 6% from June of last year. The reason this is important is we've been trending from an up 12 to an up 10 to an up 9 to an up 7 to now an up 2 and an up 4. So it tells you that the appreciation gains, the curve on that is definitely flattening. Okay. So while demand from a standpoint has not softened and it still remains of a healthy velocity and a rate of sale, buyers are finally saying enough is enough in terms of what sellers are expecting for their homes. Okay. And the impact on pricing in terms of the price per square foot is also showing up in terms of the curvature flattening in terms of what buyers are willing to pay. Price per square foot was flat May to June, and it's up 6.7% versus June of last year. So the good news from a pricing perspective for anybody is like, yes, homes are still appreciating. They're just appreciating at rates at historical averages. They're not doing them at these crazy 15% increases that so many consumers have gotten greedy with, which leads you to my market of the moment grocery store script. When you stop into Quick Trip, or you stop into Cenex, or you Piggly Wiggly, shop the pig. All right, so grocery store market of the moment script. When someone stops you in the aisle, what do they say? Here you go, demand of the market. May was the first time we saw demand metrics crest, and that demand remained consistent. That demand remained consistent in June. What this means is the demand curve has flattened, yet it has not gotten worse. This is me speaking, and you can speak the same. This is where I truly believe. I believe it is coming from overpromise and under-delivering on the rate environment. We had heard all fourth quarter last year, rates will come down by May of 24. Rates never came down. And so all of a sudden, because rates never came down and we had these buyers' expectations that they would by May, all of a sudden what happens in June? They're disappointed. Yet homes are moving at similar rates of velocity as they were in 22 and 23. Okay. So buyers that are in the market and that are understanding what the rate environment is, you still have to have a really sharp pencil and you got to have all your ducks in a row as it relates to your financial affairs in order to get into a home, because they're still moving at roughly 25 to 30 days on market. That hasn't spiked. Okay. Velocity of the market, ironically, the market is operating very comparable years to years past in terms of velocity and the pace in which deals are transacting. However, here's the one caveat for those of you working in the price points above 750,000. That is changing very quickly. Okay. The high end of the market has slowed down significantly. Okay. The high end of the market has slowed down significantly. Now, as a market average, which is 72% of all homes are less than 750, or sorry, 72% of homes are less than 350. 85% of homes are less than 750,000. Okay. That market is still operating at what it has been. Now, pricing and appreciation. Appreciation gains are beginning to level off to mid-single digits. This is healthy for the market. We were on an unhealthy trend. Okay. And this is where the positivity in terms of right-sizing seller expectation shows up. The pace we had been appreciating was not sustainable. And pay attention to right-sizing seller expectation. And here is something that will help you remember this. Pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. Okay? Pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. So right-size your seller's expectations and you should have no problems. Right? There you go. As a reminder, all of the slides from today's team meeting show up at kwrealtymke.com under the Agent Hub and Agent Resources. You can download them and feel free to use them in any presentation you would like, from the lore metrics to the market stats. Guys, it's July 8th. It's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. Have a great day. Thanks for showing up.